Hey, everyone. I know you're all carrying that same bone-deep exhaustion too. If you're new here, please hit subscribe, because today I'm finally confessing something that still leaves me shaking when I think about it. Last year, I was completely broken, running on empty, and what I did to escape. It was supposed to be just one secret trip abroad for full-body relaxation. Nothing more, but it turned into the most intense, unforgettable surrender of my life. I was drowning in endless overtime. My tiny apartment felt like a prison cell with no windows, and every single morning my body ached like it had been through a war I couldn't remember fighting. Next, if that constant low hum of anxiety buzzing under my skin. I barely slept, barely ate anything that wasn't delivered in plastic. Friends kept saying you need a break, but who has time for that when bills don't stop and the boss's emails come at midnight? Then my old college friend Mia, the one who'd left the corporate grind years ago and vanished into a quiet coastal town in Portugal, casually messaged me out of nowhere, come stay with me. No rent, just unplug. The ocean is waiting. It felt so innocent. A simple escape from my suffocating routine. Just a week or two of sun and silence to breathe again. I told myself I deserved that much, at least. I booked the ticket before I could talk myself out of it. The flight was long and blurry, but the moment I stepped off the plane and felt that warm Portuguese air wrap around me like a soft blanket, something inside me loosened just a fraction. Mia was waiting at arrivals with that same easy smile I remembered from late-night study sessions back in college. She looked different now, calm in a way that made my chest tighten with envy, sun-kissed skin, loose waves in her hair, wearing a simple linen and rest that moved with the breeze like it belonged to the sea itself. She pulled me into a hug right there, and her scent, citrus and sea salt, fresh and alive, hit me before her arms did. "You're here," she whispered against my hair, her voice low and warm. "Let me take care of everything." Her villa was tucked away on a cliff overlooking the endless ocean, all sunlit white walls and wide-open terraces that let the salt air drift in like an invitation. She welcomed me with open arms, showed me to the guest room with its big soft bed facing the water, and said, "No schedules here. Just rest." Every morning we'd share coffee on that terrace, the steam rising slow between us while waves crashed far below. I'd watch her move around the kitchen in bare feet, pouring with this effortless grace, her laughter light when I joked about my old life feeling like a bad dream already. She was so calm, so radiant after leaving all that pressure behind. I told myself this proximity was just friendly support while I recovered. Nothing more. Her hand would brush mine when she passed the sugar, or our shoulders would touch as we leaned on the railing together. Staring at the horizon, each time a tiny spark would flicker somewhere deep, but I pushed it down. This was about healing, about letting my tired body finally unclench. The days started melting together in the gentlest way, sun warming my skin through the open windows, the distant call of seabirds mixing with the rhythm of the tide. I'd wake up without an alarm for the first time in years, my muscles still carrying echoes of all that tension, but slowly softening under the weight of this new quiet. Mia never pushed. She'd just be there, close enough that I could feel the heat from her whenever we sat side by side on the worn wooden bench outside. Her presence felt like gravity, pulling me gently towards something I wasn't ready to name. I kept reminding myself she's my friend. This is innocent. I'm here for the relaxation I desperately need. But sometimes, when her eyes lingered on me a second too long over the rim of her coffee cup, or when the breeze carried her citrus sea scent across the table and made my breath catch, I'd feel this strange ache bloom low in my stomach. Warm, insistent, wrong to even notice. One afternoon we walked along the empty beach, sand soft between our toes, and she reached out to steady me when a wave licked at my ankles. Her fingers wrapped around my wrist for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. The warmth of her skin against mine sent a shiver racing up my arm, even though the sun was blazing. I laughed it off, pulling away too quickly, heart hammering like I'd been caught doing something forbidden. Inside, my mind was already whispering warnings. This is normal, she's just being kind, but why does every small touch feel like it's waking up parts of me I thought were long dead? I told myself to stop overthinking. I was here to surrender to rest, not to whatever this electric undercurrent was becoming. Yet the more time we spent in that easy, sun-drenched rhythm, the harder it got to ignore how my body responded to her nearness. The way her calm energy seemed to seep into me, easing knots I didn't even know I had. And that night, as the sky turned deep indigo and the first stars appeared, I lay in bed replaying the feel of her hand on my wrist, wondering how much longer I could pretend this was still just an innocent escape. I remember the evening it first truly hit me, standing in her sun-warmed kitchen with the windows flung open to the sea breeze. We were chopping vegetables side by side for a simple dinner, nothing special, just the two of us moving in that easy rhythm we'd fallen into. Kingair's reached for the same knife at the exact moment hers did, the brush of her skin. Warm, soft, lingering a fraction too long before either of us pulled away. A strange heat bloomed low in my chest, spreading like sunlight underwater. I told myself it was nothing. She's just being kind, generous with her space, her time. But why did that single touch feel like electricity humming through every tired nerve I'd brought with me? I swallowed hard, focused on the blade, on the tomatoes, on anything but the way my pulse had quickened. This trip was for relaxation, for letting my overworked body finally breathe. Nothing more. I pushed the feeling down deep, where it couldn't surface. Yet the days kept blurring, each one pulling me a little closer without me realizing. Mornings melted into shared yoga on the quiet stretch of beach below the cliff, sand still cool from the night. She'd guide my posture with hands that were firm yet so gentle on my lower back, correcting the curve of my spine as I tried to hold a pose. Her touch stayed with me long after we'd finished, that subtle pressure imprinted like a secret. And her scent, citrus mixed with sea salt, fresh and alive, clinging faintly to my clothes when we walked back up the path. Every night I'd lie there in the dark, replaying those moments, my heart racing against the sheets. "It's just massage therapy," I'd whisper to the empty room. "I deserve to feel good after everything I've carried for so long." The ache that followed wasn't supposed to be there, but it was, warm and insistent, making sleep come slow and restless. I kept fighting it inside, that quiet war between what I knew was safe and what my body was starting to crave. She's my friend offering escape. I'm here to heal, not to notice how her laughter lingers in the air or how her eyes soften when she watches me unwind. But the micro-moments kept building, like waves gathering before a tide change. A shared glance over morning coffee that stretched a beat too long. The way our arms brushed when we reached for the same towel after a swim. Each one sent a spark through me, small but undeniable, leaving me breathless in the quiet afterward. I reminded myself again and again this is innocent. Just two people finding peace away from the world, yet deep down, a part of me wondered if I was lying to myself, if the gravity between us was shifting into something I wasn't ready to name. Then came the night of the storm. Rain lashed the windows, thunder rolling low over the ocean like distant warnings. The power flickered and died, plunging the villa into soft darkness. We lit candles, their flames dancing across the walls, casting warm golden shadows that made everything feel closer, more intimate. Mia suggested a full-body massage to help me truly unwind, her voice calm as ever, as if it were the most natural thing. I hesitated, heart already thudding, but nodded, telling myself it was part of the relaxation I came for. I lay there on the low couch, the scent of oil mingling with the storm's fresh chill and her familiar citrus sea salt warmth. Her hands glided over my tense shoulders, slow and sure, working out knots I hadn't even known were still there. A soft Portuguese fado song played faintly from her phone, its melancholy melody wrapping around us like smoke. Desire flooded through me in waves I couldn't control. This is crossing a line. But God, I've never felt so alive, so present in my own skin. Am I really doing this? My mind screamed to pull away, to keep the boundaries clear, yet my body surrendered to the heat of her touch, trembling under the almost of it all. The rain kept falling outside, relentless, mirroring the storm building inside me. Her fingers pressed deeper, easing tension while awakening something far more dangerous. I bit my lip, fighting the urge to lean into it, to let the ache take over completely. What was happening to me here, so far from everything I knew? The candlelight flickered across her face as she worked, and for one suspended moment our eyes almost met in the dim glow. I held my breath, waiting, wondering if this was still just healing, or the beginning of something that would change everything. I turned slowly on the cool surface beneath me, the faint creak of wood the only sound breaking the hush, painting soft gold across her face as our eyes locked. No words passed between us, just that suspended breath, heavy with everything unsaid. Then she leaned in, her lips brushing mine so gently it felt like the storm itself had paused to watch. Warm, tentative, tasting faintly of salt and the wine we'd shared earlier. In that single stolen second, every careful wall I'd built around myself crumbled like sand under a wave. This trip. It had never really been only about rest, had it? The arrangement hung unspoken in the air between us, thick and undeniable. My heart hammered against my ribs as I lay there afterward, skin still humming from the kiss that had shifted everything. I should have pulled back, whispered some excuse about boundaries or the friendship we'd carried across oceans. Instead, I felt myself sinking deeper into the moment, the ache spreading slow and sweet through my chest. She's my friend, the one who offered this escape when I was drowning back home. Yet here we were, far from everything familiar, and the pull between us felt like gravity I couldn't fight anymore. What am I doing? The question echoed in my mind even as warmth flooded my limbs, leaving me breathless and strangely alive. From that night onward, our days blurred into something I hadn't dared imagine. Mornings found us slipping into the turquoise sea before the sun climbed to high, our bodies brushing in the gentle swell of waves that cradled us both. The water moved around us like silk, cool against heated skin, and every accidental tangle sent sparks racing through me. I'd surface laughing, only to catch her gaze lingering, soft and knowing, as droplets traced paths down her shoulders. Instead, we'd linger in shaded corners of the villa, exploring the quiet territories of touch that felt safer than any map. Her fingers would trace slow patterns along my arm while we talked of nothing important, each caress peeling away another layer of the old tightness I'd carried for years. The stress that had knotted my shoulders for so long began to dissolve, replaced by this new, insistent hunger I'd tried not to name. Evenings carried the same quiet electricity. We'd share simple meals on the terrace as the sky bled orange into violet, our knees brushing under the table, neither of us moving away. Her laugh would rise soft and low at something I'd said, and I'd feel it vibrate through me like a secret current. Back inside, the air grew thicker, scented with citrus and sea salt that clung to her even after showers, mixing with the faint trace of oil still lingering on my skin. I'd lie awake listening to the distant crash of waves, replaying the way her hand had rested just there on my lower back earlier, warm and steady, promising more without ever crossing into words. This is healing, I'd tell myself in the dark. The full body release I've been starving for. No one back home needs to know how present I feel now, how every breath comes easier when she's near. Never quite extinguishing. She's offering comfort, a friend helping me unwind from the weight of endless days and sleepless nights. I'm here to reset, not to let this craving take root so deeply. Still, each shared glance over coffee that stretched a heartbeat longer, each moment our fingers intertwined reaching for the same glass of water. They built like incoming tide, pulling me under. My mind whispered warnings, reminders of the life waiting across the ocean, the responsibilities I'd left behind, but my body betrayed me every time, leaning into her proximity with a surrender that felt both terrifying and inevitable. The relaxation she'd promised had become something richer, more dangerous, wrapping around me like warm rain. I felt lighter than air some mornings, my skin carrying a subtle glow from sun and salt and unspoken closeness. My thoughts, once a constant roar of deadlines and worries, had finally quieted to a gentle hum. For the first time in years, I was truly here, in this moment, breathing in the present instead of suffocating under what came next. This is what I deserve, I'd rationalize as we walked the path back from the beach, our arms swinging close enough to almost touch. The ultimate escape, full body and soul deep. Just temporary healing. No harm in letting myself feel good after everything I've endured. The words sounded convincing in daylight, even as the ache returned each night, warm and insistent, making me wonder how much longer I could pretend this was still innocent. One afternoon, as golden light slanted through the shutters, we found ourselves tangled again in that haze of sun-soaked closeness. Her hand rested lightly on my waist while we spoke of nothing and everything, the heat of her palm seeping through thin fabric like a promise. I forgot how to breathe for a second, caught in the almost of it all. The storm inside me raged quieter now, but no less powerful. How far could this go before it stopped being just relaxation? Before the boundaries blurred beyond repair? I searched her eyes, heart pounding, the question hovering on my tongue but never quite leaving my lips. The words died as she shifted closer, her breath warm against my cheek. And in that suspended heartbeat I realized the truth. I'd been avoiding this escape had already changed me in ways I might never undo. The screen of my phone lit up without warning, cutting through the quiet like a blade. His name flashed there, my boss calling from halfway across the world, voice already spilling into the room before I could steady myself. I answered with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking, propping the device against a pillow still warm from where she'd lain beside me only minutes earlier. His familiar office backdrop appeared, the same cluttered desk I'd stared at through countless late nights back home, and suddenly the scent of citrus and sea salt on the sheets felt heavier, almost accusing. "How's the break treating you?" he asked, casual as ever, while I sat there tangled in linen that carried traces of oil and skin and something far more intimate. I forced a smile, murmuring something about fresh air and clearer thoughts, but my eyes kept drifting to the faint indentation on the mattress next to me. What am I becoming? The question slammed into me without mercy. This secret escape, this full body unraveling I'd allowed myself, it was quietly dismantling the careful version of me I'd built over years of grinding through deadlines and expectations. Every shared silence, every brush of warmth that lingered too long had pulled me further from the person who used to answer these calls with crisp professionalism. Yet stopping now felt like trying to surface from underwater when my lungs had already learned to breathe differently here. He kept talking about upcoming projects, the team missing my steady hand, and I nodded along, heart twisting with each word. The life waiting for me back there looked so small on that screen, so tightly wound, while here the air still hummed with the low notes of a fado song drifting from somewhere down the street, reminding me how deeply I'd let myself sink into this surrender. Ethics screamed in the back of my mind, reminders of boundaries I was never supposed to test, of the simple reset I'd promised myself and everyone else, but the ache had grown roots, quiet and stubborn, making the idea of pulling away feel like tearing something vital. I ended the call with excuses about spotty connection, then let the phone slip from my hand, staring at the ceiling as guilt and longing collided in my chest like opposing tides. That night I barely slept, the weight of his voice mixing with the memory of her quiet presence, the way her nearness had become my new normal. By morning the decision settled in me, heavy yet strangely freeing. I extended the booking for another month without telling anyone, fully giving into whatever this had become. The relaxation had deepened into something wordless and consuming, a current I no longer fought against even as I knew the return flight loomed somewhere on the horizon. Days blurred into longer evenings of shared glances and unspoken understandings, my body learning to exist in this suspended state where every breath carried both peace and peril. I told myself it was temporary, this complete letting go, that I'd carry the glow back with me like a hidden souvenir, but deep down I understood the truth. This escape had rewritten parts of me that no ordinary break could touch. The ultimate full-body release I'd craved had turned into an emotional tide I wasn't ready to name, much less end. So that's my confession. I went abroad for a simple break and ended up in the most intense full-body emotional and physical surrender of my life. Do you think I did the right thing by letting myself go completely? If it were you, completely burned out and offered this kind of escape, would you have stopped? Or would you have done the same? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments, like if you felt this, subscribe for more real confessions like this, and tell me if you want the even more intimate details of what happened.